My ex-wife walked into a pawn shop holding my Purple Heart. The medal I earned when shrapnel tore through my leg in Fallujah. She wanted $300 for it. That's when I decided to destroy her entire life. And I'm not talking about keying her car or posting screenshots online. I'm talking about buying the bank she worked at and walking into her office on a Tuesday morning to fire her myself. Look, I know what you're thinking. This sounds insane. Maybe it is. But when someone tries to sell the one thing that represents the worst and best moment of your life for less than a car payment, something inside you breaks. This isn't just a story about revenge. It's about what happens when you push a man who's already survived hell past his breaking point. And if you've ever felt disrespected by someone who was supposed to love you, if you've ever wanted to make someone truly understand what they've done, you need to hear this. Make sure you hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel brings you real stories about real people who refuse to be walked over. And drop a like to help us keep bringing content like this. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this ends. My name's Marcus. I'm 42 years old now, but this story starts about 7 years ago when I was still married to a woman named Jennifer. We met when I was 26, right after I got back from my second deployment. I was working security at a corporate building downtown, trying to figure out what normal life was supposed to look like after spending 3 years in a war zone. She was a junior loan officer at Pacific Trust Bank, always dressed sharp, always smiling at me when she walked through the lobby. She made me feel like I wasn't broken. That's what I loved about her. I didn't have to explain the nightmares or why I couldn't handle fireworks on the 4th of July. She just accepted it all. Or at least I thought she did. We got married after a year. Nothing fancy, just courthouse and dinner with a few friends. I was working my way up in private security, she was climbing the ladder at the bank. We bought a small house in the suburbs. For about 6 years, things were good. Not perfect, but good enough. The problem started when I made a career change. I left security and used my military connections to start a consulting business, advising companies on crisis management and security protocols. The first year was rough. Really rough. I was making maybe a third of what I used to make, working twice as many hours, stressed out of my mind. Jennifer started looking at me differently. The way she used to touch my arm when I talked, that stopped. The way she'd ask about my day, that became more like an interrogation about finances. One night, about 8 months into my business struggle, she told me she wanted a divorce. Just like that. Over leftover Chinese food in our kitchen. She said she couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't watch me fail. Couldn't keep pretending she believed in me. Those were her exact words. I can't keep pretending I believe in you. I'm not gonna lie to you, that broke something in me. Not my heart, I think that was already cracked from everything else. But it broke my pride. My sense of who I was as a man. Here I was, someone who'd led soldiers through combat, who'd made life and death decisions before I was old enough to legally drink, and my wife was telling me I was a failure because my business startup was having a rough first year. The divorce was quick. She didn't want the house because it needed work I'd been too busy to do. She didn't want my car because it was an old pickup truck. She just wanted out, and she wanted it fast. That should have told me something right there. When someone's in a hurry to leave, they're usually in a hurry to get to someone else. I found out about him 3 weeks after the papers were signed. His name was Derek. He was a regional manager at her bank. Drove a BMW, wore suits that cost more than my truck, had perfect teeth and hair that looked like he spent an hour on it every morning. And here's the thing that really got me, she'd been seeing him for almost a year. The whole time she was telling me she believed in me, she was already checked out, already planning her exit, already sleeping with someone else. But I didn't blow up. I didn't slash tires or send angry texts or any of that stuff. I just signed the papers, moved into a one-bedroom apartment, and focused on my business. Because here's what Jennifer didn't know about me. What she never really understood despite being married to me for 6 years. When you tell a Marine he can't do something, when you count him out, when you bet against him, that's when he's most dangerous. Not because he's angry. Because he's focused. My business took off about 4 months after the divorce was final. And I mean really took off. I landed a contract with a Fortune 500 company that needed a complete overhaul of their executive protection protocols. That led to 3 more contracts. Then a government contract. Within a year, I went from barely paying rent to clearing 7 figures annually. I bought a house. A nice one. I bought a car that didn't sound like it was dying every time I started it. I hired employees. Real, talented people who respected what I'd built. And I didn't say a word to Jennifer about any of it. I could have. We still had a few mutual friends who would have definitely told her. But I didn't want her to know. I wanted to just exist in my new life without her shadow anywhere near it. That lasted about 2.5 years. Then one day I got a call from Tommy. Tommy was my buddy from the Marines, lived about 30 miles away, owned a pawn shop that specialized in military memorabilia. Good guy, always treated veterans right, gave fair prices, never tried to rip anyone off. He called me on a Wednesday afternoon, voice all weird and tight. "Marcus, man, you need to get down here right now," he said. "What's going on?" I asked. "Just get here. Trust me." I drove to his shop thinking maybe he had some emergency, maybe someone tried to rob him, I don't know. I walked in and Tommy was standing behind the counter with this look on his face like someone had just told him his dog died. He reached under the counter and pulled out a display case. Inside was my Purple Heart, my Bronze Star, my Combat Action Ribbon, my deployment medals. Everything I'd earned in the Marines, everything I'd kept in a shadow box in the house Jennifer and I shared, everything I'd left there because I was so messed up during the divorce I just wanted out. "Where did you get these?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Woman came in about an hour ago," Tommy said. "Blonde, maybe late 30s, dressed real nice. Said they belonged to her ex-husband and she wanted to sell them. Offered her $300 for the lot. Told her I needed to make a call first. $300. 4 medals I earned by bleeding in the desert. For commendations I got for pulling 2 Marines out of a burning Humvee. For a Purple Heart they pinned on me in a hospital bed while I was still trying to figure out if I'd ever walk right again." I stood there staring at those medals through the glass and something just went cold inside me. Not hot. Not angry. Cold. Calculated. Clear. "She's still here?" I asked. "Left about 10 minutes before I called you," Tommy said. "But Marcus, man, I got her information. Copied her driver's license like I do for all transactions. Got her address, phone number, everything." He slid a piece of paper across the counter. Jennifer's name. An address I didn't recognize in a nice part of town. The same phone number she'd always had. "What are you gonna do?" Tommy asked. "I'm gonna buy these back," I said. "How much?" "Man, just take them. They're yours." "How much would you sell them for, Tommy?" He thought about it. "Collectors would probably pay $1,500 for a real Purple Heart with provenance. Bronze Star maybe $1,000. The others, couple hundred each. So maybe $4,000 for everything." I pulled out my wallet, counted out $4,000 in cash and put it on the counter. Tommy tried to refuse, but I wasn't having it. This was a transaction now. This was business. I took my medals, put them in my truck, and sat in the parking lot for probably 20 minutes just thinking. See, here's what Jennifer didn't understand about those medals. They weren't valuable to me because of what they were worth in money. They were valuable because of what they represented. Every one of those pieces of metal came with a memory. The Purple Heart came with the memory of Sergeant Davies putting a tourniquet on my leg while we were still taking fire, telling me I was going to be fine even though we both knew I might not be. The Bronze Star came with the memory of carrying Private Morrison back to the convoy after he took a round through the shoulder, his blood soaking through both our uniforms. Those medals were proof that I'd done something that mattered. That I'd been someone who stood for something bigger than myself. And she tried to sell them for $300. Probably needed the money for a purse or a dinner or who knows what. That's when I decided. I wasn't going to yell at her. Wasn't going to confront her. I was going to do something she'd never forget. Something that would make her understand exactly who she'd thrown away. I started doing research that same night. Found out she was still working at Pacific Trust Bank. Found out she'd been promoted to senior loan officer. Found out she was still with Derek, living in that nice address from her driver's license. Found out Derek had been promoted too, now a vice president at the same bank. And I started looking into Pacific Trust itself. It was a mid-sized regional bank, 12 branches across 3 states, assets around $800 million. Profitable but not wildly so. Publicly traded but not heavily. Stock price had been pretty flat for the last 3 years. The kind of bank that was doing okay but not great, stable but not exciting. Then I found something interesting. Pacific Trust had been exploring a sale for the last 18 months. Nothing public, but if you knew where to look in financial filings and industry publications, you could see the signs. They'd hired a consulting firm that specialized in bank mergers. They'd brought in new board members with M&A experience. They were positioning themselves to be acquired. And that's when the plan came together. Real quick, if you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now. Drop a comment telling me if you think what I'm about to do is justified or if I'm taking this too far. And smash that like button because we're just getting to the good part and this channel only grows when you engage with the content. Alright, let's keep going. I spent the next 3 months doing something I'm actually really good at, due diligence. See, crisis management consulting teaches you how to analyze organizations from top to bottom. You learn how to find weaknesses, inefficiencies, vulnerabilities. You learn how to see what's really going on under the surface. And I turned all of that knowledge onto Pacific Trust Bank. I pulled every public filing they'd ever made. I analyzed their loan portfolio, their branch performance, their executive compensation, their shareholder structure. I hired a private equity analyst I'd worked with before, guy named Chin, super sharp, told him I was thinking about a major investment and needed deep research. I didn't tell him what I was really planning. He spent 6 weeks building me a report that was probably more detailed than what the bank's own board had. What I found was fascinating. Pacific Trust was profitable, yeah, but just barely. They had some bad commercial real estate loans from before the 2008 crisis that they'd never fully written off, just kept extending and pretending they were good. They had branches in locations that didn't make sense anymore, legacy footprints from an acquisition they did in the 90s that were now just bleeding money. Their executive team was overpaid for the results they were delivering. Their technology was outdated, their customer service scores were mediocre, and their market share was slowly eroding to bigger national banks and smaller, more nimble credit unions. But here's the thing, none of that was fatal. With the right management, the right capital injection, the right strategy, Pacific Trust could be worth a lot more than its current market value. It was exactly the kind of undervalued asset that private equity firms love. A fixer-upper in the financial world. I set up a meeting with my financial advisor, a woman named Patricia who managed my investments. I told her I wanted to make a major acquisition and needed to structure it properly. She connected me with an investment bank that specialized in community bank acquisitions. Within 2 weeks, I was sitting in a conference room in downtown Chicago with 4 guys in suits who did nothing but buy and sell banks for a living. "So you want to acquire Pacific Trust?" one of them said, looking at me like I was crazy. "Can I ask why?" "Personal reasons," I said. "But I'm serious. What would it take?" They laid it out for me. Pacific Trust's market cap was around $600 million. To acquire it, I'd need to offer a premium, probably 20 to 30% above market value. So we were talking $750 million to $800 million. I didn't have that kind of cash, obviously. My business was doing great, but I wasn't worth anywhere near that much. But here's what I did have: credibility, collateral, and connections. My business was valued at around $40 million. I owned it outright, no debt. I had personal assets worth another $15 million. And I had relationships with private equity firms from my consulting work, firms that had hundreds of millions in dry powder they needed to deploy. The investment bankers explained the structure. We'd set up an acquisition vehicle, a special purpose company. I'd put in my equity as the lead investor and managing partner. We'd bring in private equity partners for the bulk of the capital. We'd leverage the acquisition with debt, borrowing maybe $300 million secured by the bank's own assets. Add it all up, and we could make a credible offer for Pacific Trust without me having to personally come up with $800 million. "This is doable," one of the bankers said. "But I gotta tell you, it's a lot of work for a bank that's not exactly a crown jewel. There are better acquisition targets out there if you're just looking for returns." "I'm not just looking for returns," I said. It took 4 more months to put it all together. I brought in 2 private equity firms as partners, each putting up $200 million. I structured my equity contribution at $50 million, basically my entire net worth, everything I'd built since the divorce. We secured debt financing from a larger regional bank that was happy to lend against Pacific Trust's assets. And we put together an offer: $820 million, all cash, 35% premium to current market value. We submitted the offer on a Monday morning in April. By Wednesday afternoon, Pacific Trust's board had agreed to negotiate. By Friday, we had a letter of intent. The whole thing went public the following week. I watched the news coverage from my office, saw the press release, saw Pacific Trust CEO doing interviews about how excited he was about the partnership, how this was going to take the bank to the next level, all the usual corporate speak. And somewhere in one of those 12 branches, Jennifer was probably reading the same press release, having no idea that the acquisition group was led by her ex-husband. The deal took another 3 months to close. Regulatory approval, shareholder vote, due diligence confirmation, all the standard merger process. During that time, I didn't reach out to Jennifer once. Didn't send a message, didn't drive by her house, didn't do anything that would tip her off. I just waited. The acquisition officially closed on a Thursday in July. By Friday morning, I was the managing partner and chairman of Pacific Trust Bank. I owned 20% of the equity personally, controlled the board, and had full operational authority per the terms of the deal. And the first thing I did, the very first official act as the new chairman, was schedule a meeting with senior management for the following Tuesday. I had my assistant send the meeting invitation to all executives and senior vice presidents. Mandatory attendance. 9 a.m. Conference room A at the headquarters branch. The email didn't say what the meeting was about, just that the new ownership wanted to introduce themselves and discuss the path forward. Jennifer's boyfriend Derek was on that invitation list. He was a senior VP after all, which meant Jennifer would definitely hear about it. But she still wouldn't know it was me. My acquisition company had a generic name, Summit Financial Holdings. None of the press coverage had mentioned my name specifically, just a private investor group led by a former military officer turned security consultant. I was listed in the regulatory filings, but who reads those besides lawyers and analysts? That weekend was the longest weekend of my life. I barely slept. Not because I was nervous, but because I was excited. I kept thinking about the look on her face when she realized. When it clicked. When she understood that the man she told couldn't succeed, the man whose war medal she tried to pawn for $300, was now her boss's boss's boss. Listen, before we get to what happens next, I need you to do something for me. Pause the video right now and subscribe to this channel. Seriously, hit that button. Because the second part of this story is absolutely insane and I promise you don't want to miss how this plays out. Drop a comment right now telling me what you think is going to happen when she sees me walk into that conference room. And leave a like because videos like this take forever to put together and it helps us make more content like this. Now let's get to the moment you've been waiting for. Tuesday morning came. I got to the bank headquarters at 8:15, 45 minutes before the meeting. I wore a suit I'd bought specifically for this occasion. Navy blue, perfectly tailored, expensive but not flashy. I wanted to look like I belonged there. Like I'd always belonged in rooms like this. The headquarters was this modern glass building downtown, 8 stories, Pacific Trust logos everywhere. I walked through the lobby and took the elevator to the 7th floor where the executive offices were. My new office was at the end of the hall, corner unit, windows overlooking the city. I didn't go in there yet. Instead, I went straight to conference room A and had my assistant set up my laptop, get the projector working, make sure everything was ready. At 8:45, people started arriving. Executives I'd never met, people who'd worked at this bank for 10, 15, 20 years. They came in looking nervous, which made sense. New ownership always means changes, and changes usually mean some people lose their jobs. They were all doing that thing people do in uncomfortable situations, making small talk, pouring coffee they don't really want, checking their phones to avoid eye contact. Derek walked in at 8:52. I recognized him immediately from the photos I'd seen online. Tall guy, maybe 6'2", that corporate handsome look, hair graying at the temples in that distinguished way. He wore a charcoal suit with a light blue tie, had an expensive watch on his wrist. He walked in with confidence, shook hands with a few people, laughed at someone's joke. He had no idea his life was about to change. At 8:58, I saw her through the glass wall of the conference room. Jennifer. She was walking down the hallway with another woman, both of them carrying tablets and coffee cups. She'd cut her hair shorter than when we were married, had it styled in that professional bob that every woman in corporate America seems to have. She wore a black dress with a blazer, pearls, heels that clicked on the tile floor. She was laughing at something her colleague said. She looked happy, successful, like someone who'd made all the right choices and was living exactly the life she wanted. She walked into the conference room still mid-conversation, not even looking up. Found a seat about halfway down the table on the left side. Derek was sitting near the head of the table on the right. They made eye contact and he gave her this little smile, the kind of smile that told me they were still together, still happy, still completely unaware of what was about to happen. At exactly 9 a.m., I stood up from where I'd been sitting in the corner, walked to the front of the room and positioned myself in front of the projector screen. "Good morning, everyone," I said. "Thank you all for being here." The room got quiet. People settled into their seats. And that's when Jennifer looked up from her tablet. I watched it happen in real time. Her eyes met mine. There was a split second where her brain was still processing, still trying to understand why her ex-husband was standing at the front of a conference room in her bank. Then I saw the recognition hit. Her face went pale, like all the blood just drained out of it in 1 second. Her mouth opened slightly but no sound came out. I didn't acknowledge her. Didn't make eye contact, didn't pause, didn't smile. I just continued like she was anyone else in the room. "My name is Marcus Reed," I said. "As of last Friday, I'm the managing partner and chairman of Summit Financial Holdings, which now owns Pacific Trust Bank. Some of you may have seen the press releases. Some of you may have questions about what this means for the bank and for your positions. I'm here this morning to address those questions and lay out our vision for the future." I clicked to the first slide of my presentation. Started talking about our strategic plan, our goals for the bank, our timeline for implementation. I talked about efficiency improvements, technology upgrades, customer service initiatives. All legitimate business stuff that I'd actually spent weeks preparing with my private equity partners and a consulting firm we'd hired. But the whole time I could feel Jennifer's eyes on me. I could see her in my peripheral vision, frozen in her seat, gripping her tablet like it was the only thing keeping her from floating away. Derek kept looking over at her, clearly noticing something was wrong but not understanding what. I talked for about 20 minutes, laid out the whole plan. Then I got to the part I'd been waiting for. Now, as part of our operational restructuring, we'll be making some changes to personnel, I said. This is never easy, but it's necessary to position the bank for long-term success. We've identified several positions that are redundant or that don't align with our strategic direction going forward. The room got tense. You could feel it. Everyone sat up a little straighter, stopped checking their phones, gave me their full attention. Because this was the part where people find out if they still have jobs. We'll be eliminating 3 senior vice president positions, I continued. The SVP of Legacy Operations, the SVP of Commercial Real Estate, and the SVP of Regional Branch Management. I watched Derek's face as I said that last one. Regional Branch Management. That was his title. I saw the moment it registered. His eyes went wide. His jaw tightened. He looked like someone had just punched him in the stomach. Those individuals will be notified personally by end of day today and will receive severance packages in accordance with their contracts, I said. Additionally, we'll be consolidating several loan officer positions across our branch network. Specific notifications will be sent out by department heads over the next week. Jennifer's hands were shaking. I could see it from where I was standing. She'd set her tablet down on the table and her hands were just trembling. I wrapped up the presentation, took a few questions from people who weren't about to be fired, and then ended the meeting. If anyone has specific questions or concerns, my door is open. Thank you all for your time. People started filing out. Some fast like they couldn't get out of there quick enough. Some slow, still processing what they just heard. Derek stood up, grabbed his phone, and walked out without looking at anyone. Jennifer stayed in her seat. Just sat there, staring at the table in front of her. When the room was empty except for the 2 of us, I started packing up my laptop. Didn't say anything. Just acted like she wasn't there. Marcus, she finally said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I looked up. Yes. You bought the bank? I bought the bank, I confirmed. Why? I closed my laptop, picked it up, started walking toward the door. Then I stopped and turned back to her. You tried to sell my Purple Heart for $300, Jennifer? Her face somehow went even paler. How did you? A friend owns the pawn shop. He called me. I bought them back. I paused. They're worth about $4,000 by the way. But that's not why they matter. They matter because I bled for them. Because good men died next to me while I was earning them. And you tried to sell them because you needed some quick cash. I didn't. I wasn't thinking. No, you weren't, I said. You never thought about anyone but yourself. Not when you were cheating on me with Derek. Not when you told me I was going to fail. Not when you walked out. And definitely not when you took the medals out of that shadow box and carried them to a pawn shop. She started crying. Not loud sobbing, just silent tears running down her face, ruining her makeup. Is Derek really being fired? She asked. Derek is absolutely being fired, I said. Today. He'll be escorted out by security around 3 p.m. It's not personal. Well, maybe it's a little personal. But it's also just business. His department has underperformed for 3 straight years and the position is genuinely redundant with our new structure. And me? I looked at her for a long moment. You're a senior loan officer, right? She nodded. Then your job is safe. For now. Assuming you perform well. We need good loan officers. I headed for the door again, then stopped one more time. Oh, and Jennifer? That severance package Derek's getting? The one written into his executive contract? You might want to read the fine print. It includes a non-compete clause that covers the entire region. He won't be able to work for another bank within 200 miles for 18 months. Might make it hard to afford that nice house you 2 are living in. I walked out and left her sitting there in that conference room. The rest of the day went exactly as planned. At 3 p.m., Derek was called into a meeting with HR and informed of his termination. Security walked him to his office, watched him pack his things, and escorted him out of the building. I watched it happen from my office window. Watched him carry a cardboard box to his BMW, load it in the trunk, and drive away. My assistant told me later that Jennifer had left early, around 2 p.m., said she was sick and needed to go home. I wasn't surprised. But here's the thing, I didn't feel good about it. I thought I would. I thought there'd be this rush of satisfaction, this feeling of victory. But when I sat in my new office that evening, looking out at the city, all I felt was empty. I'd spent almost a year planning this. I'd risked everything I'd built to make it happen. And now that it was done, I just felt tired. Over the next few weeks, I actually did the work I'd promised to do. I wasn't just there to ruin Jennifer's life and disappear. I'd made commitments to my investors, to the employees, to the regulators who'd approved the deal. So I brought in new management, started implementing the operational changes, began the technology upgrades. I was at the bank 60, 70 hours a week, completely focused on turning it around. I barely saw Jennifer. She worked at a branch across town, only came to headquarters for monthly meetings. When she did, we avoided each other completely. Didn't speak, didn't make eye contact, just existed in the same space like strangers. About 6 weeks after the acquisition, I got a call from my head of HR. There was a situation with one of our senior loan officers. She'd been making mistakes. Simple stuff at first, putting wrong information in loan applications, missing deadlines. But it was getting worse. In the last week alone, she'd cost the bank 2 deals because of errors in her paperwork. "Who is it?" I asked, even though I already knew. "Jennifer Morrison," the HR director said. "She's been with us for 12 years, normally excellent performance, but something's clearly going on. I wanted to flag it before we moved to any formal disciplinary action. I told her to handle it according to standard procedure. Document everything, have a performance conversation, offer support if there were personal issues affecting her work. I didn't want any special treatment going either direction." 2 weeks later, Jennifer resigned. Didn't give a reason, didn't serve out a notice period, just sent an email to her manager saying she was done and wouldn't be coming back. I heard through the office gossip network that she'd moved. Left town entirely. No one knew where she went. Derek had already left too. Couldn't find another banking job because of the non-compete, ended up taking some random sales position with a tech company in another state. And just like that, they were both gone. Out of my life. Out of the bank. Out of the city. I sat with that for a while. Tried to figure out how I felt about it. I'd set out to make Jennifer understand what she'd done, to make her feel what I felt when she walked away and when she tried to sell those metals. And I'd succeeded. I'd humiliated her, fired her boyfriend, made it impossible for them to stay. But had it fixed anything? Had it healed whatever was broken inside me? Not really. Alright, we're almost at the end, but there's one more major twist to this story. Before we get there, drop a comment telling me if you think I went too far or if she got what she deserved. Subscribe if you haven't already, because this channel tells real stories that don't hold back. Hit that like button. And now let me tell you how this actually ended. About 4 months after Jennifer resigned, something unexpected happened. I was in my office late on a Thursday night, going through quarterly reports, when I got an email. It came through the bank's general contact form, the one customers use to ask questions or file complaints. But this wasn't a customer. The subject line said, "I'm sorry." The message was from Jennifer. I stared at it for probably 5 minutes before I opened it. Part of me wanted to just delete it. What could she possibly say that would matter at this point? But curiosity got the better of me. The email was long. Really long. She started by saying she knew I probably didn't want to hear from her and she'd understand if I didn't read it or respond. Then she told me everything. She told me about how she'd been having an affair with Derek for 14 months before she asked for the divorce. How he'd promised her a better life, more stability, more of everything she thought she wanted. How she'd convinced herself that I was the problem, that I was holding her back, that she deserved more than what our life together was giving her. She told me about the metals. She said that after the divorce, she'd been going through boxes in her storage unit and found the shadow box. She said she looked at it and felt nothing. Just saw it as stuff her ex-husband had left behind. She needed money for a deposit on the house she and Derek were renting, and the pawn shop seemed like an easy solution. She said she didn't think about what those metals meant. Didn't think about me at all. Then she told me what happened after I bought the bank. She said when she saw me standing at the front of that conference room, her entire world collapsed. Not because she was worried about her job or Derek's job, but because she realized in that moment what she'd actually thrown away. She said watching me stand there, confident and successful and in control, she understood that I'd never been the failure she'd convinced herself I was. She was just too impatient and selfish to wait and see what I'd become. She said Derek fell apart after he got fired. Started drinking heavily, became bitter and angry, blamed everyone but himself. They fought constantly. He couldn't find work because of the non-compete, couldn't accept that his career had hit a wall. Eventually she realized that the man she'd left me for wasn't who she thought he was. Without the job and the status and the BMW, he was just a guy with a fragile ego and no plan. They broke up 3 months after he was fired. She said she stayed in town for a few more weeks, trying to make her job work, but every day at the bank was torture. Every time she walked into the building, she saw my name on the ownership plaque. Every time someone mentioned the new chairman, they were talking about me. She couldn't handle it, so she left. Moved back to her hometown in Ohio, moved in with her mom, took a job as a loan officer at a small community bank making half what she used to make. And then she wrote something that I still think about. She said, "You didn't just beat me, Marcus. You showed me who I really am. And I hate what I saw. I threw away a good man who loved me because I thought I deserved better. I disrespected your service and your sacrifice for $300. I convinced myself you were the problem when I was the problem the whole time. And now I'm 39 years old, living with my mom, working a job I'm overqualified for, and I have no one to blame but myself. You won. But I don't think you feel like you won, do I? I don't think either of us won anything." She ended the email by saying she didn't expect forgiveness or a response. She just needed me to know that she understood what she'd done and that she was sorry. Really, truly sorry. I read that email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and went home. I didn't respond to her. Not that night, not the next day, not ever. Because what was I supposed to say? That I forgave her? I wasn't sure I did. That I appreciated the apology? Maybe I did, but it didn't change anything. That she was right and neither of us won? That part was definitely true. See, here's what I realized sitting in my apartment that night. I'd spent almost a year and risked everything I had to teach Jennifer a lesson. To make her see me. To make her regret what she'd done. And I'd succeeded. I'd humiliated her, destroyed her relationship, forced her out of her career and her city. I'd done everything I set out to do. But it didn't make me happy. It didn't heal the part of me that she'd broken when she said she didn't believe in me. It didn't erase the betrayal or the pain or the anger. It just added more weight to all of it. Revenge is a weird thing. Everyone fantasizes about it when they've been wronged. We imagine the perfect comeback, the perfect moment where the person who hurt us finally understands what they did and suffers for it. We think that moment will set us free. But it doesn't. At least it didn't for me. I kept running the bank. Did a good job of it too. We turned profitable within 18 months, stock price went up 40%, my private equity partners were thrilled. I made more money than I ever thought I would. Built a life that looked successful from the outside. But I was lonely. I'd been so focused on revenge and business that I hadn't built anything else. No relationship, no real friendships outside of work, no hobbies or interests or connections. Just work and an empty apartment and memories of a war I fought 15 years ago and a marriage that ended badly. About a year after Jennifer's email, I was having dinner with Tommy, the guy who owned the pawn shop. We were catching up, talking about life, and he asked me if I was happy. "I'm successful," I said. "That's not what I asked," he said. I thought about it. "No," I finally admitted. "I'm not happy." Because of Jennifer? Because I spent so much energy destroying her that I forgot to build anything for myself, I said. "I won the battle, but I'm still fighting the war in my head." Tommy nodded. He's a Marine too. He understood. "So what are you gonna do about it?" That conversation changed something in me. I started going to therapy. Actual therapy with a psychologist who specialized in veterans and PTSD. Started dealing with stuff I'd been avoiding for years, stuff from Iraq, stuff from the divorce, stuff from my whole life that I just buried under work and anger. I started delegating more at the bank, hired a president to handle day-to-day operations so I could step back a little. Started saying yes when people invited me to things instead of always being too busy. Started dating, though nothing serious. Just trying to remember how to connect with people again. And slowly, over months and then years, I started to feel something other than anger and emptiness. Started to feel like maybe there was a version of my life that wasn't defined by what Jennifer did or what I did back to her. I never heard from her again after that email. No idea where she is now or what she's doing. And honestly, I don't think about her much anymore. Not because I've forgiven her exactly, but because I've realized that holding on to what she did was hurting me more than it was hurting her. Here's what I learned from all of this, and this is the part one wish someone had told me before I spent a year plotting revenge. When someone betrays you, when someone disrespects you, when someone throws away what you built together, you have 2 choices. You can make them pay for it. You can use every resource you have, every bit of intelligence and determination and willpower, to make sure they suffer. And if you're smart and driven enough, you'll probably succeed. You'll get your revenge. They'll understand what they did wrong. They'll regret it. But that won't heal you. It won't make you whole again. It won't give you back what you lost. It'll just make you someone who destroyed another person's life. And you'll have to live with that. Or you can let it go. Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. You can take all that energy you'd spend on revenge and build something better. A better career, better relationships, a better version of yourself. You can prove them wrong not by destroying them but by succeeding without them. I chose revenge. And yeah, I got what I wanted. I bought a bank, fired her boyfriend, made her face what she'd done. But if I could go back and do it differently, I would. I'd take those medals from Tommy's shop, put them on my wall, and never think about Jennifer again. I'd build my business and my life and move forward instead of looking back. Because at the end of the day, success is the best revenge only if you're actually enjoying the success. Otherwise, you're just rich and powerful and still angry. Still empty. Still fighting a war that's already over. I'm 42 now. The bank's doing great. I'm doing okay. Better than okay most days. I still have nightmares sometimes, still see my therapist every other week, still struggle with the idea of letting people get close to me. But I'm working on it. And those medals? They're in my office now. Not in a shadow box on the wall where everyone can see them. In my desk drawer. Because they're not for anyone else. They're reminders to me of who I was and what I survived. And they're worth more than any revenge could ever be. So that's my story. The question I want you to answer in the comments is this. Was I right to do what I did, or did I waste a year of my life on something that didn't matter? Subscribe to this channel because we tell stories that don't sugarcoat reality. And if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Click the next video that pops up because we've got more stories just like this one.